Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. You find me with my color card up near my face. This is how I start every single video, but usually I edit it out. But I just wanted to show you, this is how I figure out the proper exposure and white balance and all that stuff. I'm getting better at it. I'm still not sure that I'm completely there, but I think the videos lately have been looking pretty good. And this is one of the ways that I do that. I try to get the proper exposure from the camera, and then I use this little color card, which was ridiculously expensive for what it was, or what it is, but it has these very precise color grades, and then white, black, and medium gray there, so you're able to set your exposure and all that stuff. So that's what I'm doing. Just thought you might like to know that. But gang, we have a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, mini stuffs and things to talk about today, including upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays, an alcoholic drink that I might actually like. Many of you ask me about what drinks I like, and I usually say, meh, I don't really drink. But there might be one that I actually enjoy. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming Super Bowl, just a little bit about football, maybe some teams that I might like to see in there. And then I've had another big music breakthrough. Some of you have been following along with the 9-month guitar challenge, and some exciting things for me have been happening music-wise. And then of course we will have your question. There's only one this week, in hashtag #AskStuffandThings. I have a blank paper that my printer put out that just has a page number on it. That's nice. So stay tuned, let's get into it. All right, gang, upcoming videos. So, first up, things that you can look forward to for this week, or thing you can look forward to for this week. On Wednesday, we will be doing my first impressions video, let's cover that, of GLP's Meridian. This is one that I have been pretty excited about, looking forward to trying this. I've had it for a while, and I just finally got around to doing it. I just recorded the first impressions video, and so far, you gotta watch it on Wednesday, and I'll tell you what I think. It's sort of an English blend. I mean, it is an English blend, has a little Oriental in there. But yeah, it's interesting. GLP's is usually, I'd have to say, of almost any blender out there, I would say GLP's is probably the most consistent. And I know a lot of you can't get it easily in Europe, but if you do get a chance to get your hands on GLP's blends, they're usually worth it. So GLP's Meridian first impressions video. We will have the Guitar Challenge 9-month, the 9-month Guitar Challenge month 9 check-in will be next week, and that's it, basically. Obviously, I'm gonna be doing more music videos on the channel, but we've had this whole process of me trying to get better at guitar over a 9-month period. I just kind of arbitrarily chose 9 months. And the week after next, or the Wednesday after next Wednesday, will be the final check-in. Obviously, you know, I just got a new guitar and things like that, so we'll still be having more of those videos on the channel. But as far as that series, that will be the final check-in. And then we may do one more, because I promised that I would give myself a reward. And you'll be able to see whether or not I deserve that reward. Good stuff coming up as far as the 9-month guitar challenge. And then on Stuff and Things Plays, if you've been following along with Demon Souls, The Adventures of Kevin the Kurt, that series ended on Friday. It was the final episode. And we're gonna be starting a new game on Monday, this coming Monday at noon Pacific time on Stuff and Things Plays. And it's fun. It's a cool game. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's one that I wouldn't typically play. It's kind of a first-person shooter sort of game, but you should definitely check it out this Monday on Stuff and Things Plays. And I'll leave it as a surprise. You guys can figure that out on Monday. So it seems invariably every week as I'm looking through comments, going through questions, I'll have a few people asking me about alcohol, liquor that I like, or drinks that I'd like to have while enjoying a pipe. And I usually say coffee or Dr. Pepper. Those are my favorite drinks to enjoy. And people have asked me, oh, do your top 5 alcoholic beverages to enjoy while enjoying a pipe, or just to enjoy in general. What are your top 5? And I always say, yeah, I don't really drink that much alcohol. People want me to review whiskeys or bourbons and things like that. And I always kind of shy away from that because I don't really drink. I drink occasionally. I have nothing against drinking. It's fine. You can do it, just do it in moderation. But there is one drink recently that I've kind of gotten into and I kind of enjoy. And it's one that I've had before, but recently for Christmas, Diamond bought me some old-fashioned glasses. So the drink, the old-fashioned, she bought me the proper glasses. She bought me a really cool ice tray so you can make the big 2-inch by 2-inch square cubes of ice that you should use in an old-fashioned. We have some bitters, and I went and bought some little cocktail spears, all the stuff that you need to make an old-fashioned, and some really fancy maraschino cherries. And I've been enjoying the old-fashioned recently. It's a very, very simple drink. It's basically, I think, one of the oldest cocktails in existence. It was first made, I think it was first referred to as an old-fashioned in the 19th century, but it had existed before then. And I guess the story goes that, you know, as in the late 19th century, early 20th century, as people were getting more into mixing all these different things into cocktails, people would ask for just an old-fashioned cocktail. Give me an old-fashioned. And so the basis of a cocktail was a kind of alcohol, sugar that you would muddle with some bitters, and then you would mix the alcohol in with a cube of ice, maybe a sprig of orange or a bit of peel, zest or whatever, of orange or a lemon. And so I've been making old fashions, and I've been really enjoying them. And I was thinking maybe it would be fun to do a video on the channel where I show you how to make a basic, traditional, standard old fashioned. Let me know if you think you would be interested in that. And you might actually see me drinking a drink on camera, something you've never seen before and might never see again. And since so many of you asked me what are my favorite cocktails, what kinds of alcohols do I like, I'd like to know in the comments below what you're into. Special drinks, special, I don't know, I don't know any brands. Diamond bought me a bottle of Woodford Reserve whiskey, and it's like, this seems good. I think this is good. There are other whiskeys and other alcohols I have kind of enjoyed in the past, but I'm not a connoisseur by any means. So I'd be curious to hear what you think. All right, the Super Bowl will be happening soon. We are in the divisional round of the playoffs this weekend. And so by the time you're watching this video, some teams will already have been eliminated from the playoffs. Obviously, the Seahawks did not make the playoffs this year. They had a losing record. We're just gonna put that aside for now. But there are teams left, and a couple people have asked me who I'd like to see in the Super Bowl. Since I don't have a dog in the race anymore, I think on the AFC side, I would love to see, well, not love, I would like to see the Bengals make it, because it's been so long since they've had any real postseason success, and Joe Burrow is just so fun to watch. So I think from the AFC, the Bengals, I really don't want the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I'm sick of the Chiefs. So I want the Bengals from the AFC, and I think they have a chance. We'll see. And then I want the, I guess I could be happy with the Bucks from the NFC. I don't want any NFC West team to make it into the Super Bowl. So San Francisco, the Rams, I hope they both get eliminated. And yeah, I think the Bucks. I think the Bucks versus the Bengals would be a fun Super Bowl. And it'd be hilarious if Tom Brady won another Super Bowl, but it would be kind of heartwarming if the Bengals were able to win their first Super Bowl in God knows how long. I think it's been, is it 17 years since they had won a playoff game, and they just won, you know, in the wild card round. So they're due. I think it'd be nice for the Bengals fans out there. Okay, music, guitar stuff. I'm super exhilarated and excited about this today because I've just had another one of those big breakthroughs, and I don't want to get too much into it because I'm probably going to be talking about this on the 9-month guitar challenge video that I post, not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. But I just was speaking to a friend of mine who I used to be in a band in, and then he had moved away to New York. I had gone to visit him and his wife in New York at one point, or actually him, because his wife was gone at the time. And we still stay in touch and everything. And recently we had gotten in touch, and he was talking about how he had really been getting into guitar again and actually taking some lessons, because he'd been playing for years, and I'd say he's a really good guitarist, but he had never had any theory lessons or anything. And we were sort of comparing notes about things that we had been learning, things about scales and, just the chords that are in a key and all that stuff. And kind of preliminary to the conversation with him and then just doing my own research, starting to put things together, I've had a major breakthrough on just how songs are constructed and what chords sound good together and what chords are in a key. So not to get too into the weeds with this, but as I've been practicing all this guitar stuff lately, learning scales, I've been learning the notes and the scales, but I hadn't necessarily put all of that together so I could have some sort of cohesive theory. And it's only recently that I've been thinking, okay, let's say I'm playing a G major scale. And now, from what I've learned, I can figure out, okay, these are the notes in the G major scale. This is the order those notes are played in the G major scale. Then I can say, okay, so what are the chords that are in the key of G major? And using the knowledge I have gained, which I'll explain more of when we actually do the guitar video, I can say, okay, these chords are in the G major scale. And then just picking from those chords, I can make a chord progression that sounds really good, which is very basic, and it's something that you kind of do instinctually as you're playing. You're like, okay, I'll play this G, then I play a C. That sounds good together. What else sounds good there? Oh, I guess an E minor and then a D. That sounds really good. But now I know why it sounds really good, because those are all chords. They're like the diatonic chords, I think. Again, my theory is a little fuzzy there, within the G major scale. And so just today, I did this as an exercise where I wrote down all the notes that are in the G major scale. I wrote down all the chords that are in the G major scale. I came up with a chord progression and like a rhythm pattern for playing those chords. I used my looper, recorded that little pattern, that chord progression, and then I'm like, okay, and now I have learned as well that I'm playing in G major. That's the key that I'm in. So now I can go to the G major pentatonic scale and I can play lead over, and I'm not good at playing lead, but I know what notes sound good over this chord progression. It's so basic, but it's something that a lot of guitarists actually don't even know. A lot of people I know who've just learned by ear and just, learning songs, not necessarily the theory, they don't necessarily know these things. And that's what my friend Brandon was talking about, where he would play solos and play lead, and in the past he would just play notes and be like, well, that sounds good. Oh, that doesn't sound good. That sounds good. He'd come up with a solo, some pretty cool solos, but now he knows, like I know, and he's better at it because he's just better mechanically, that, okay, I'm playing over G major, here's the G major scale, or I could play the G major pentatonic scale, and it works. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know why I get so much satisfaction out of it. I love guitar in general, but just knowing like, okay, I can take these pieces, I can put them together, and even though you could play anything you want, just if it sounds good, play it, I think is the main rule. Now I at least know that if I take these pieces and put them together into a whole, they'll all work together. They're guaranteed to work together. And then if you want to get crazier, you can use different chord voicings and things like that. But it's been so exciting and so exhilarating, and I'm really excited to tell you all about it when we do the actual 9-month guitar challenge video, and that will be coming up not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. Be sure to check it out. Okay, gang, a little bit of a shorter Sunday Stuff and Things this week because we only have one question in hashtag askstuffandthings. So please, no, I don't want to make a fist at you. Please keep the questions coming. If you have questions that you would like me to answer on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings, or you can ask me questions in the comment section of YouTube. As many times as I've said this, you would think I'd get it right. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me on there and ask me questions. But this week we only had one question. This is via YouTube from S. Hirsch. And they say, Bradley, what band's musical genre had the biggest impact on you growing up? Good question, S. Hirsch. So some of you have heard me talk about music a little bit. We did that Spotify top 10 several months back where I was slightly shocked and appalled by what popular music is these days. And you can veer into the angry old man territory fairly easy when you're talking about popular music. But as kind of a preface for all this, pretty much all growing up, I never really listened to popular music. There was only a short period when I was in 7th grade that I would listen to like the top 10 kind of hits on the radio. But other than that, it was always stuff that I'd kind of found myself or that friends had turned me on to, and almost none of it was popular music. And that's not me trying to be a hipster or cool or anything. It was just kind of the way it worked. So when I answer this question, what bands or musical genre had the biggest impact on you growing up, it all kind of starts with my mom listening to oldies radio all the time. So she never listened to anything contemporary when I was a kid. If she'd be driving us to school, we'd be in the station wagon and she would have oldies radio playing. And so this would be, obviously you'd have the Beatles and stuff like that and the Rolling Stones, but it would also be a lot of Motown stuff, a lot of kind of 60s pop stuff. And so that was kind of where I was coming from. And then when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, I started really getting into the Beatles. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that my parents at the time were very strictly religious and probably weren't super open to popular music or like rock music that would be going on in that era. But it was always okay. I knew I could always listen to oldies stuff. I could listen to the Beatles. I could listen to the Who or the Kinks. I hadn't really gotten into them yet when I was 12 or 13. But the Beatles, like I just devoured every Beatles album. And my older brother was into that stuff too. And since he was older than me, he was starting to kind of bring music in as well. So 12, 13, had a background in oldie stuff, then really got into the Beatles. Then there was that period when I was listening to like the Top 10 at 10 on Kiss 'em FM when I was like 13-ish, 14-ish. That didn't last very long. And then grunge hit. So Nirvana, some of the other bands in that kind of, that scene, I wouldn't even really consider them all a part of a whole. Like I hated Soundgarden, I hated Pearl Jam, but I really got into Nirvana. And that was while I was also supplementing like the Beatles stuff with other 60s British bands like the Kinks and the Who, started getting into the Small Faces. So into this soup, we have like pop oldies from the 50s and 60s. Then we have the Beatles as like a major thing and kind of my idea of what music is or what pop or rock music is. Then Nirvana comes into that, and that's sort of this post-punk aesthetic. I also really got into classical music when I was around middle school age, so listening to a lot of Bach and a lot of Mozart and stuff, Beethoven, all the big hits, because I remember getting like Beethoven's greatest hits or Bach's greatest hits or Baroque greatest hits, you know, but you know, these CD compilations that they would have. So you have classical music, you have Beatles, you have the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, a lot of 60s British bands, then getting into Nirvana, and then looking back and finding other kind of post-punk bands or punk bands. I liked the Sex Pistols, and this is starting to get into like late middle school, early high school, listening to the Sex Pistols, the Jam, the Buzzcocks, like all these British punk and post-punk bands, and then getting into some of the alternative stuff that was current in the US, getting into Nirvana, getting into Radiohead a huge amount, and then just that's kind of the background. That's sort of my musical education and still informs the things that I like now. So I would say 60s pop, Beatles, Nirvana. Those were probably the three biggest things, and then classical music as well. Those were the biggest things to kind of inform what I think of when I think of songs. If I try to write songs now, which I kind of do occasionally, that's sort of the sensibility that's really ingrained. Those were my formative years for figuring out music. So good question, interesting question. Thank you for answering it, or asking it. I answered it. S. Hirsch. All right, gang. I think that went well. I think that was a nice, succinct Sunday stuff and things. But before we go, it's time for the very best part of the show. And that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Gang, your support on Patreon is much appreciated. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below. If you do so, you will be contributing to the fancy camera that is filming this video right now, the lights that are shining upon me, blends that I get for review, and other items that I might want to review on the channel. It's much appreciated, and every week we like to thank those who support the channels at $25 or more a month. People like Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Glenn, Jason Buckner, Gloria Phillips, Ryan McFadin, Matt Marino, MDoftheNorth, and Kyle, our newest 25 and up Patreon supporter. Thank you, Kyle. And of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels at $100 a month. People like Peter Straub, Bob Magee, David Gaudreau, and Ashes of the Phoenix. Thank you all so much for your support. Now look at this. I printed this out, and it didn't put Ashes of the Phoenix on here. And Ashes of the Phoenix isn't on this page either, that just has the page number. So luckily, I remembered our good friend Ashes of the Phoenix, and he got his shout out, but I don't know why it didn't print out. That's a problem. Gang, thank you so much for your support. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Hit that like button, leave comments. That all helps in the weird amorphous Google algorithm that we've got going on here. The YouTube algorithm presided over by Google. But gang, please, be sure to watch the first impressions video of GLP's Meridian this Wednesday. Stay tuned for the 9-month guitar challenge on the next Wednesday. A new series premiering on Stuff and Things Plays this Monday. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a very pleasant Sunday, Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.